Okay, I'd like to call the order of the Ag and Rural Affairs Committee meeting for this afternoon. But before we get going into the agenda, I'd like to take a moment to have us be introduced by two new members that we have on the committee. And I'd like to go around and kind of introduce all of ourselves to let us know who we are and where we're going to be active. So, Randy, would you like to start?
Sure, I would. Randy Udell, Alder for District 4, Seat 8, and I live in the Seminole Forest area of Fitchburg.
I am Deanna Schmidt. I am the city planner and zoning administrator here at the city. I support the Ag and Rural Affairs Committee.
I'm Raj Kohi. I'm co-chair of the Ag and Rural Affairs Committee. I've been an active member for 19 years on this committee and look forward to getting to know you people a lot better and work side by side with you on the issues that we have coming up.
I'm Amy Johanning. I've been on the Ag and Rural Affairs Committee for a handful of years, and I'm a fifth generation on our family farm here in the city of Fitchburg, out in the rural area. So looking forward to meeting all of you, working with you.
Adam Guile, this is my second meeting. I farm over on Burn Road, 108 acres over there, and live over in Briarwood subdivision over in Fitchburg.
I'm Shelley Malofsky, and I'm a 10-year veteran of Fitchburg. I never lived on a farm, but I did live in the town of Dunn, so that's the next best thing. And I am here as the delegate from the Plan Commission because I'm in the non-urban area of Fitchburg. I'm replacing Ed Kinney's seat, but as you will find out, I am no Ed Kinney.
Well, thank you, and again, welcome aboard. Okay, we'll now call the meeting to order, and the first part of the agenda would be to approve the minutes of our April 18th meeting. Do I hear a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor of approval of the meeting minutes for April 18th signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Approved. The next part of the meeting would be for the public appearance of any non-agenda items. I don't see any participants out here that would be wanting to speak at this time. So I don't see anybody, no. Okay, so we would move on to the agenda review. The first thing we have on the agenda review is a certified survey map request CS 250923 by Dave Welders, agent for Betty Forest Revocable Trust, to approve the certified survey map to consolidate a farm and subdivide one parcel of 4 existing parcels on the property associated with 2227 Fitchburg Road. I think we all know about this business. It has been an established business in Fitchburg for a number of years. They host outstanding events in the fall where there are a large number of people come in for picking pumpkins and hay rides and certainly picking and choosing apples for themselves. So we would like to think that this amendment that they're coming here with is something that will be positive for it. And so with that said, Deanna, would you like to read with us what the staff people have to think about this?
I would certainly be happy to offer the staff report. So before you are actually several different pieces. There is, first of all, I'll touch on I have up in front of you the certified survey map, and then I'll touch on the rezone request, and then, of course, the conditional use. So these are coming together as a package, the CSM, the rezone, and the conditional use. I will ask the committee to offer a vote of recommendation for or against to Plan Commission. This is brought forward by Apple Garden in conjunction with Betty Forrest, the property owner. The lands are currently zoned exclusive ag, and this is coming for you because Apple Garden is interested in adding a commercial kitchen to their facilities. The commercial kitchen would serve minor food to a small number of people, and under the current zoning, a commercial kitchen is not allowed. So therefore, staff recommended that Apple Garden come forward with the request for a rural event venue conditional use. In order to get to that rural event venue conditional use, we need to, first of all, create a new lot. And so what is happening is the proposal is to create 2 lots out of the existing farm property. Lot 1 for the buildings of currently occupied and used for Apple Garden, and Lot 2 for the remainder of the farm. Lot 1 under the rezone would be rezoned to small lot agriculture, which is required for the conditional use of a rural event venue. So the proposal would rezone the farm buildings just under 5 acres from AX to AS, small lot agriculture. Staff believes that it's a reasonable request in terms of state law, as I've noted there. I will draw attention to one of the requirements for a rural event venue. Rural event venues require that the lot 1 would have a 20-foot buffer surrounding the rural event venue. In this case, that's not a possibility. So what staff is recommending is that the proposed lot 1, because it lacks that 200-foot buffer, would staff is proposing to add an additional condition, which is written there for you, that the proposed lot 2 would remain unsubdivided and zoned agriculture, in keeping with the intention of the rural event venue. Upon any subdivision or rezone of Lot 2, this conditional use will become null and void. And that would that would allow us as a city to once again review the conditional use. Apple Garden would just need to come back to you for a new conditional use. If there was a change to Lot 2, we're suggesting that Apple Garden would come back forward to you and the Plan Commission for a review of that conditional use. So staff recommends support approval of the certified survey, which is what you're looking at here. We recommend support for or approval for the rezone, and then approval for the conditional use of a rural event venue, with that condition that any changes in Lot 2 would trigger a request for a new rural event venue conditional use. So can I answer some questions?
Okay, again, on the map up here, Deanna.
Yeah.
that buffer that you're talking about, that would be considered AX yet, where exactly would that be on there?
Well, under the requirements for a rural event venue conditional use, one of those requirements is a 200-foot buffer around the rural event venue.
Okay, around Lot 1.
Yes, on Lot 1.
Oh, on Lot 1.
And the way that we have it drawn, and to limit the amount of AX rezoned out, staff has agreed that it's reasonable to not make them expand Lot 1 to create that 200-foot buffer on Lot 1.
Okay, okay.
The 200-foot buffer, the intention here is to protect neighboring land uses, right? Because the thinking of the rural event venue would be it's out in the country and it's very rural around, and so not to disturb any other landowners. And I think it's reasonable to not make them do the 200-foot buffer on this lot, and then they can keep Lot 1 reasonably around the current buildings, and then the 200-foot buffer would, in essence, be existing on Lot 2.
All around it,
Yeah.
okay.
In essence.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you. Okay, we also have with us Matt Ledermeyer that can answer any questions for this project. And so to get to the point of us discussing it, do I hear a motion to accept this certified survey map request?
Motion for approval.
I hear a motion for approval. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Hearing a second, we're now open for discussion. Do we have any discussion from any of the members yet here? Well, that's pretty good.
Good explanation, Deanna.
Yeah. Okay, hearing no discussion, all those in favor of accepting this motion, CS 2509-23, signify by saying yay.
Yay.
Aye.
They're all together. Good. Okay, it's approved.
Okay, notes taken.
Okay, go ahead.
And then I would ask, in consistency, to also do a motion, a second, and then a vote for the rezone, also, and then the conditional use for that rural event venue. So if you could continue on for those other two items.
Go ahead.
I will make a motion to approve agenda item 5B, the rezone request for RZ-2510-23.
I'll second the motion.
Hearing a second, do we have any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye, yes.
I thought I'd trip you up. Approved. Go ahead for the second, next motion.
I will make a motion to approve agenda item 5C for the conditional use of CU-2511-23.
Second.
Hearing a second, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying yay.
Aye.
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 Approved. Matt, it's done.
Your work is done here.
Well, thank you for attending. Okay. Yeah, moving along, we are now have a, do you want to talk about the one that didn't get approved?
Yes, I can discuss the next one. The next item on your agenda is, well, actually, these two go together. D and E go together. conditional use, CU 251323, and then the ADR is tied in together. Actually, there are some notes in your packet, and the packet is in there, but the applicant has requested a postpone on both of these items. The reason that they're asking for a postpone is they're still exploring some other options of how they might want to develop the parcel. So what they're proposing right now is a storage building that would be used for their lawn care business, and that lawn care business would need a conditional use under this particular zoning, which is rural development. We're bringing this to ag and rural just because it is out in the country, and we wanted you all to take a look at it. And so, but today, if there are no specific questions that I can try to address, I'm asking the committee to do a postpone until an August meeting for this particular item. Well, for both those items, actually. Yeah, I would like to do a separate motion for each one.
Okay.
To just postpone until the October Ag and Rural Committee meeting.
I would like to make a motion to move agenda item 5D to the agenda for the October Agriculture and Rural Affairs meeting.
I'll second.
Hearing a second, do we have any discussion?
You said October, August?
I think October, right, Deanna?
October, please.
Oh, sorry.
I'm pretty sure. Yes, October, please.
We can always move it again.
Well, if they bring it to us, right, we could meet sooner.
Well,
Actually, you'll all probably have to meet next month, too.
Okay.
There's something in the middle.
There's something in the middle.
Okay. So we have a motion on the floor. Do I hear a second for the,
before you move forward, since we're postponing it until October, I don't know what protocol or parliamentary, can we pull it back for the August if they're ready? I
I mean, I
mean,
think they,
can we do that since we're postponing it until October?
the request,
Procedurally.
the applicant requested October, not staff.
Oh, they did? Okay, all right, that's fine. Okay.
Yes. I mean, they might not be ready, I guess.
Sure, but I mean, there might be some urgency or some, whatever the case may be. I don't know. Sometimes people move things up, move them back, but generally from council, we move things out, and as you know from plan, we've moved things many times further and further out.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but all right. I don't remember pulling anything back.
Yeah.
Could happen.
okay, we have a second. Any more discussion on this? Okay, all those in favor for postponing this particular request of 5D and 5E?
Oh, just 5D
5D,
first.
I'm sorry. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Carried.
I'd like to make a motion to move agenda item 5E to the October Agriculture and Rural Affairs meeting agenda.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a second. Any discussion on that? All those favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Okay, that takes care of that. Okay. You want to read the next one?
That's working.
No, yeah, 5F. Right. 5F.
All right, the next item on the agenda is item 5F for the ordinance 2023-0-14, amending Chapter 30 to allow for construction of private wells on agricultural lands adjacent to municipal water main and amending the terms in Chapter 40 for compulsory water connection waivers.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor for that amendment. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second. We're now open for discussion. Deanna?
Yeah, just let me make a couple notes here. Yes, if you will allow me to take a couple of notes and comments from the staff side, and then also I would just like to read Mark Jones's comments for you all. I think I'll just go ahead and read his comments. So, this is right from the staff notes, Chapter 30-67 prohibits the installation of new private wells on property when municipal water main exists within 200 feet of the property. The Director of Public Works can authorize installation if certain things are met. So this ordinance was spurred by a request from Groundswell. Groundswell are using or hope to use a larger portion of the Paisley Swan Creek Farm for raising vegetables, food crops, and Groundswell intends to expand the crop production. Using municipal water would be cost prohibitive, and so staff has been working with them to find a path forward to allow the development of a new well on the site. Staff has prepared an ordinance that offers some changes that would allow the Director of Public Works to authorize the construction and operation of a new private well within 200 feet of a city water main when the following conditions exist. Water is not used for human consumption and only to provide water for irrigation, post-harvest handling of agricultural products, and watering of livestock. The private well is located on a parcel that is at least 10 acres in size and zoned agriculture. So that's kind of the overview of where we are. One thing that I want to draw attention to you as staff has been working through this of where and when a new private well could be installed. Staff has identified that would be for the handling, for the irrigation and handling of agricultural products, but my suggestion is that we would limit those agricultural products to vegetables, truck farming, those types of things. It was my suggestion. And I will follow up to say that what my thinking was here is that anytime we have a water main within 200 feet of a property and it's coming forward for a new well, it's likely to be a new use. And my concern here is that making sure that the uses that we are allowing with the new well are consistent and wouldn't be contrary to all the existing uses around. So the first thing I want to just talk about is this idea of limiting to agricultural production that would be for fruits and vegetables and also like truck farming kinds of things. And if you have concerns about that, I want to talk through that first with you all. Is all agricultural products appropriate in this setting?
As the non-farmer, can you tell me what would not be covered? What agricultural product would not be covered by your limitation?
That's a really good question. And just let me just so that I get this exactly right. So what would not be covered as I have it written right now is large cash grain crops, cotton, tobacco, horticultural specialties, so wheat, corn, soybeans, cash crops, field crops such as potatoes, cotton, tobacco, those types of things would not be covered, would not fall under the allowable.
May I ask, and why? What's the difference? What are you,
Where I was going with this is thinking that if this was a new use, a new well, it should be something that would have less long-range, less overall impact on the area.
So, I'm sorry. So right now, there would be farming, there would be agriculture within 200 feet, probably even closer, because right now, if you're adjacent, you don't have to connect to the water main. You could have large grain crops and all these other things.
Right.
So you'd have some people who would be right up to the main that have all kinds of crops. But you're suggesting that if it's somebody's putting a new well in, it's a new day, you're not grandfathered, so it should be scaled back.
That was my thinking, that this is a different kind of thing, this is a new use.
Would that be, I mean, I understand the logic of it, but is that fair and necessary? And I guess my
That's why
other,
I'm bringing this to you guys.
yeah,
That's why we're here. Yeah.
I guess, I mean, if the intention is to farm this area, I think us as a committee should be wildly in support of that and not putting necessarily any limitations on what, but this is the body that you're talking to, you know, I mean, if I'm putting a new well on a little bit of my farmland, I'd sure like to be able to rotate. It's good for the ground. So if I do like potatoes 1 year or corn 1 year, I need to do maybe something. I need to have that option, I guess, I think. I think that's good ground management. And they're wanting to manage the ground if they're adding a well for irrigation. Without talking to the folks, you know, I don't exactly know. Maybe we could, are they here? Great.
Yeah.
Tell us maybe. They're registered.
Would you like to come up?
up to the microphone, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So, I'm
Yeah,
the
would
executive director of Groundswell. My name is Angela Westblank, and this is Mike Foy. He's a current volunteer with us, but he was a former land protection LTE with us as well. So basically, this farm was purchased with the intent of providing equitable access to land for Neighborhood Food Solutions, which is run by Robert Pierce, who is a black farmer. And it's leased to him currently. And basically, he does a lot of things with his program, with youth and what have you, growing vegetables and other products, many of which he sells to restaurants to help with his not-for-profit. So we're both not-for-profits in this endeavor. And because we're an environmental group, we tend to look at cropland as, you know, we rotate crops, we do things in an ecologically sustainable way. So we're not talking about a farm with corn, you know, that's exclusive corn, exclusive soybeans. It's not that kind of farm at all. We have another farm, Westport Farm, where we have Hmong farmers, and that's in Wanakee, where they grow a lot of Hmong vegetables and other cultural products. And they also grow different flowers and horticultural products for sale at their farmers market. That's the other farm. The current farm that Robert Pierce is working with is the Paisley's Farm, and that's primarily, you know, vegetables and what have you. So just to give you some clarity on the farm and what it looks like and how we're approaching it, just so you get an idea. And we're, you know, the hope is that this equitable access to land project will thrive. We'll be able to take advantage of more acres. Currently, the farmer is using basically kind of the, using, you know, buckets and what have you to, because he doesn't have what most farmers have, which is a well. He just, you know, gets his water from municipal water. So he doesn't have a really adequate source of water and not a really good permanent solution. So he hasn't really been able to take advantage of using the entire property. And that's been a hindrance for him to success. And we want this to be successful for him, and for the people who are involved in the program, and then also for the city of Fitchburg. Mike, do you have anything to add?
No, other than the ordinance as proposed by staff, the amendment did already limit agricultural uses under the Chapter 22 uses. So if you see in paragraph 1, it's limited to irrigation and post-harvest handling and water for livestock. So there's already limitations built into this. I guess I'd hate to see additional ones just because at some point you're creating a new class of agricultural land here that, you know, you're going to have to, I presume, acknowledge in the zoning code at some point why this is a different kind of ag land than the ag lands that are in Chapter 22. So it does seem like at some point it's, I think we could live with this, but at some point, you know, you're writing an ordinance amendment just for us. And I don't know if that's really, you know, good policy, but that's up to you guys.
They've also mentioned that it's leased land too, so it's obviously being
Yep.
leased by someone. So that makes me even more cautious with putting limitations on the current use, because what if the lease ends and now we have this land that we can only grow carrots on, for example? So I just get very nervous when it's for a leased use.
It is leased use, yeah, and the lease will end.
Exactly, yeah, so
So-
I'm very cautioned with putting any additional limitations on.
If you all, you can all make a recommendation to remove those extra conditions and just leave it as irrigation and post-harvest handling of agricultural products. We can eliminate the reference to the SIC, where, like I said, what I was considering here is just that urban-rural interface and what that looks like, so.
I guess I'm wondering if you have a 40-acre parcel, no house, municipal water within 200 feet, and we authorize or allow for a well, but then say it's not for human consumption, then a person would have to connect to the municipal water for the home or for human consumption.
Yes.
And have a well.
Yeah.
I
Well,
think if you
okay.
have a well, you don't need the municipal connection.
Okay, maybe I should go ahead and, so I want to make sure that I think you have a really good point, but I think that the first, if we can get there, if you don't mind, I want to be very clear where you all are on this number 1, where I have limited the types of agricultural products and then also the types of livestock. And you all can make a recommendation to eliminate those types and just, I want you all to have your thinking on this and your positions on this, so.
I think in your memo you said another reason was that since it butts up or is close to the urban area, you didn't want to conflict with the uses in the urban area? Is that, so does that had something to do with your limiting the kinds of use on the property? Because it's close to, I'm not, can you explain your thinking about that a little more?
Right. And it's actually, for me, it's kind of simple. If there's a water line there, there's probably a reason and there's probably some development. So in this case, Groundswell is right across the street from Terabessa. Right. And so my thinking about those limitations was that if there's a water line there, there's likely some higher intensity development already there. And if the city is going to proceed with granting the right to do a new private well, then maybe we should have some limitations to address that urban-rural interface.
It seems to me like it sort of says the opposite, that if a development like Terra Vesa comes, you're forcing out the existing farm rights. That now that there's Terra Vesa, you can't connect to anything but the municipal well, or the municipal water.
I get the same impression. You're kind of forcing, and this is ag and rural. I mean, I don't know why the two can't work hand in hand. You have a residential development, all right, city water. Now you're talking livestock, agricultural, which, why can't it work on, or work off of the private well? I don't know. I feel like it's being complicated.
I don't necessarily mind number 2, other than the 10 acres in size, and I feel like it should say zoned agricultural or small lot ag. I think those two uses are consistent with a private well.
So, so you're saying that AX and AT would not be consistent with a private well?
Maybe those two. Ag and small lot ag are what came to mind. I'm not saying that
Okay.
those are the only two, but certainly not a residential zone parcel.
Right, oh, okay, so right now, we have really 3 agricultural zoning districts. The AX, the AT, and then the AS. Those are our 3 main agricultural zoning districts. There are some agricultural uses in rural development, but the 3 big ones are right there, and so that's what's listed in number 2. And yes, so in this case, as written in number 2, it would not be possible to do a private well on rural development or a business zone lot or a residential zone lot.
I think that's another limiting factor that I think we want to stay away from. And here's my 2 cents. The agricultural land was there first. I'm sorry, there's secondary things that have happened afterwards.
Well, I guess what I would ask is, at the end of the day, what I need is a motion with the set of changes that you all would like. If it's more appropriate to consider this more, that's your option too. But what I would like to do is go to Plan Commission with your recommendations. What I'd like to do, so let me step back just before I jump into Mark's stuff. So I think I would like your recommendations, your formal recommendation on number 1, and in particular, as defined by the SIC manual. That is, as I said, both of those statements are limiting the types of uses. Okay, so I would, one approach, if you're uncomfortable, you can modify that. And then number 2 is that the private well would be located on at least 10 acres, zoned AT, AS, and AX. Those are our standard major agricultural zoning districts. So I'll leave that there. For your thinking, and I think what I'll do is go ahead and read Mark's comments regarding this particular item. So this would be Mark Jones's comments. Mark Jones is one of the committee members that is unable to join us today, but he did provide his comments for our consideration. So item F, which is the one we're on, I agree, but it does not go far enough. Let me explain. I have an active farm in the city. A city water main goes along my farm on the other side of the road. If my well that feeds my farm for both humans, animals fails, I would be forced to hook up to city water system for my house and drill a new replacement well for my animals. It would cost me double. Estimates to hook up my house run between $10,000 and $15,000 because I would have to bore the road and place pipe to my house. Plus, I would have to spend another $13,000 to drill and hook up a farm well for my animals. I feel that the city is being very unfair to me as a Fitchburg farmer. I ask that while we are amending the ordinance, we allow active farm to replace the existing failed well with a new one for human and animal uses. There are very few situations in our city that could fall into this situation, but I am one of them. It does not cause the city great harm, but it would help the farmer to stay in business. We as a city say we support Fitchburg farmers. This is one case where we can help with no adverse effect to the city. And so he's just asking me to read my request into the minutes, which I have done so.
So I have questions, which will be no surprise to Deanna. As to number one,
Okay.
you would allow a private well if it's used only for irrigation or livestock. What other uses, other than drinking, would you use a well for? And I'm kind of picking up from the question from Mike, or the presenter. I mean, what does this not cover every use of a private well, either drinking, irrigation, or watering livestock?
As far as I know,
Okay, so this isn't limiting. Does that help? I thought you thought it was limiting to,
Well, I haven't seen any more specific proposal than what was provided to us. But, if you're going to start to say what crops can be irrigated, that seems like a limit to me.
right, the crops, I agree. Yeah, I understand that. I thought you were saying that there might be other purposes for a water than the three things I listed. So this
Yeah.
one would cover everything.
It's also concerning to me that the gentleman farming the land can't take a drink of water from this well we've just created because it's not for human consumption. Theoretically, that's the best water I'm biased, but I'm not drinking city water. Theoretically, that would be the best drink of water he could get. So I just don't understand fully why it wouldn't be not used for human consumption and only for irrigation and post-harvest handling.
It sounds like there must have been some policy decision in this already current ordinance that the city doesn't want wells. They want everybody to connect
Hooked up.
to a main.
I can kind of maybe
Right.
explain where that might have come from, in that it's one of the requirements of getting a waiver under 30-67A now. If we were granted a waiver, which
Right.
someone apparently decided wasn't appropriate, but that was a requirement of that there'd be no use for human consumption. I guess I agree. It would be really nice to be able to take a drink if you're working in the sun all day from your well, but that was put in there. The well will be potable, however you want to say it. It's required under the existing ordinance as a non-high capacity well, less than a high capacity well. So it will be potable, and it's a little confusing to us why it wouldn't be allowed to be used for drinking, but we are most interested in getting irrigation, and we decided we were going to not kick on that, I guess is the
Yeah.
best way to put it.
I mean, historically, what happened was in 2021, my predecessor requested a waiver, and when I pursued that, an answer to that, and we resubmitted, we had answered all of the questions for all the criterion. The one criterion that we failed on was that we could not prove that the water, municipal water, was unsuitable for the purpose of growing crops. So I think Mike is absolutely right. I think that, at that point, the decision was that we were not going to use this for human consumption, and therefore it was written into this amendment. So that's where that stems from. So it's kind of a historical,
But we have some work to do on that.
I agree.
We have
The
some.
wording of this is going to be critical.
Yep.
And quite honestly, I don't think we've got all night here to do it. So I'm suggesting that we address this at our next meeting, which is in August,
We will meet in
in
August.
30 days. And so we table this for right now. In the meantime, during this time, we've got to either get together somehow,
Yeah.
a couple of us, something, to get this wording put together.
Correctly.
Correctly. I'd like to think that we can, or we can maybe have an ad hoc get-together.
I don't think
And
we're
then
allowed
we-
to do that. But
I think what we maybe could do, just because we are a public body,
Yep.
we could do I'll check with the city attorney, but I don't want to walk into a quorum problem.
Oh, that's right.
So, but if you would be willing to do a work session, I think I could set up a working session for you all, and maybe we'll ask Public Works to come in and talk a little bit more in detail.
Yeah.
Oh, I think
have some
that's
work to
great.
do.
Yeah, we've got work. We need some leadership on this, and that would be great. So, what I would like to do is somebody make a motion to postpone this.
I've got a little bit more.
Okay.
That prior to our working session, Mark had made a comment in his letter that there are very few situations in our city, and I don't know that that's necessarily true. I would like to see maybe at that work meeting what the water main infrastructure is, and maybe how many parcels are affected or are unaffected by that 200-foot buffer. I think the number's quite a bit larger than he's anticipating.
Well, I think the number that he's pointing to here are the number of farms that are like within that range, that if their well went bad, say, hypothetically, I'm not in this situation, but hypothetically, if my well goes out next week and I'm within 200 feet of city water, which I'm not, this is hypothetical, I would have to hook my house up now to city water and spend potentially up to $15,000, but surely I'm not going to use that for my crops or my livestock. So I'm also stuck digging myself a brand new well, which I think my well was $20,000. So this is not beneficial for the farmer in Fitchburg. I disagree with this current setup 100%, and we need to take the actions and do the amendments necessary that, not only are we looking at this new well situation, which we need to take a closer look and figure out how this farmer can take a drink when he's out there harvesting and planting, but we also need to take a look at this current writing of why does this person, and even if it's 4 farms, I don't care if it's one. If it's one farmer in the city of Fitchburg that's affected, it still matters.
Yep.
So if it's even one person that's affected, as a body, we need to look at this and take the action necessary so that if Roger's well goes out tomorrow, he can just go ahead and replace that well and continue drinking his water out of his home out of that well. And it's a burden, it's a cost burden. And I don't think it was intentional by the city. It must have been just a simple oversight.
Do you know, Deanna, how a new well is defined in the ordinance? Does it include a replacement or not?
That was going to be my question, is
I mean, maybe it
New
doesn't
as in-
include replacements.
brand new, unpermitted, non-grandfathered well, or, like Mark's saying, new, I gotta get a new one.
It would need
That
to
can
be
be
up to
on-
code, so
On
it'd
your
probably
list
be
of
a new.
your homework.
I can tell you, based on my discussions with the Assistant Director of Public Works, and that she made a distinction to me, and I'll just share that with you, that a new well would be different, for example, if your pump went out of your well. So no problem replacing your pump. If you have to drill an entirely new well on your property, under this particular ordinance, that would mean that you would also have to connect the house for potable water to the city's system.
That's problematic.
That's how it's written right now.
Yep. And it was probably totally unintentional. I'm sure it just wasn't clearly thought. And how do you think through these situations until you're presented with it?
Well,
I would also guess, I'm not positive, but I would guess that increasing the diameter of the well or having to dig it deeper would also require a new well number.
Oh, absolutely. You would have to go
New well.
deeper. Yeah.
Yeah, there's quite a distinction between replacing a pump and doing what you're saying.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
And there's a good chance that if you're going to be a farmer that is going to expand into gardening or row crop, whatever, and needs irrigation, he's going to have to go from maybe a 4-inch well to a 6-inch well, for sure, for capacity to take care of the house and his irrigation that he's doing. That would require then, from what I understand here, that he could not do that. He has to hook up for the house, he has to hook up for the city water, because it's not a pump replacement, it's a total new well. And that is something that could really happen. Your operation, maybe for some reason or other, you require more water than you're anticipating right now, and you have to go to a bigger well. That's
Well, that does
problem.
concern us because, we bought a century farm. It's been in continual agricultural use since at least 1913 and probably long before that. And, we are hoping to operate it for another century if we can. We've got 40 years as an organization now, and that doesn't seem beyond our reach. So we don't know, and I guess in many ways I find it curious because you have multiple places in here where if you lose your agricultural zoning or give it up voluntarily, petition for rezone, then all this goes away. You have to go back to connecting to municipal water. And so that really seems to be the city's protection, that as long as it's used for farming, it's good. And when it's not used for farming anymore, then you get hooked up like everybody else. But you're then using quantities that are much smaller. You're not trying to irrigate crops or that kind of stuff.
Well, you bring up a good point. Yeah, if we rezone something and there's a well involved, does that well grandfather into the new rezoning?
Yes, well, no. Okay, so, and your example here is Mark Jones also, right? Because he came before you all, actually, last year in order to create a new lot around his farmhouse. You all remember that?
Yeah.
Vaguely, yeah.
Right, and so he would create a new 1-acre lot around the existing farmhouse, zone it to residential. And as you know, that did not move forward because that triggered him having to connect to city water.
Why?
Because he was rezoning to residential.
Problem there.
That's a problem.
Yeah,
Because that costs
I look forward to this work
15,000.
session, because that's going
Yeah,
to be
we
part
have
of
a
it.
lot of work to
Okay.
do.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that the current ordinance, though?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes,
that
that
policy
is, that's
decision
the
was made for whatever
requirement
reason.
right
That's-
now.
If,
Yeah.
Seems like a terrible use of resources, ripping up a road and doing over and costing people extra money.
well, if I could just the things that I would think would be informational for us is really what, and I think it was alluded to before by Amy and Adam, what is the impact of this ordinance? I mean, right now, if you're ag and you're within 200 feet of a main, actually if you're adjacent to it, but, so if you're near a main, you can use your private well for all purposes, including drinking water, because you don't have to connect. There's no compulsory connection. So, unless this issue of what is a new well on this ag land would, come into play. But so those situations aren't being covered by this. So how many scenarios are there that would fall under this that would not meet the waiver that's available under A, and which is my second question. Has anything ever fallen under A and they've been given Public Works granted a waiver from the private well? I mean,
I
it
don't
does seem
have-
limiting language, but.
I don't have an answer to your question about how many waivers have been granted and where.
Yeah, I don't expect you to know now. I'm just saying for the working group, maybe it would be important to know what the impact of this ordinance really would be in practice. Because it doesn't seem like it affects established farms other than if you have to drill a bigger well because yours goes out or something. Right?
Right,
And you'd have to
and
have your
also
farmhouse.
this, we're talking about within 200 feet of a
Yeah.
water main, right?
Right.
I think it's time that we have a motion to table this, and with the idea that we certainly move into a work session with it. So if somebody would like to make a motion to table this 5F,
Postpone it, not
or,
table.
I'm sorry, postpone it, I'm sorry,
Sure.
postpone it.
I would like to make a motion to postpone agenda item 5F until the next meeting, but proceeding that, hopefully a work session by this body.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on that idea? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Approved. So we will work on that. And Deanna, you can either work with one of us or
I'll work,
with me or
yeah.
somebody.
I'll work with you or the chair, the new
Yeah.
chair,
Yeah.
or however, yes.
Okay,
Perfect.
Thank you.
and we would,
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
oh, thank you for so much.
Appreciate the
Say,
explanation.
On the Paisley Farm, how many acres have you under cultivation there right now?
Go ahead.
Yeah, but it's not quite half of it yet, because, again, he's having trouble with the watering can method of irrigation.
That's a 30-acre farm, isn't it? Was it
It's 35.
35,
Yeah.
yeah.
It would, the arable land is just over 14, I believe. The rest is wetlands and stream.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
At full build-out for agricultural build-out would be 14-some acres.
So
Okay,
he's doing about half of that. Yeah,
okay, so that's what the size that we would be talking about.
So about half of 14?
yep,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
yep.
But
well, that's the reason I was asking this, because we've referred to a 10-acre deal in this particular. Yeah,
Do some work for you.
yeah,
Okay,
And-
we appreciate
yeah,
it.
we look forward to maybe having you return.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
okay, thank you.
Okay.
For the next meeting or the work group, can we have a understanding why staff proposed 10 acres also? Just curious about that.
Yeah, that's good.
We have a lot of questions.
Yeah, there's a lot over here. And I'm glad we've got it. I mean, I'm glad.
That was a useful request.
Yeah. And- Okay, next part of the agenda is G, election of a chair, and for the Ag and Rural Affairs Committee. As you know, Ed is no longer chair, so that spot is open. And I would certainly like to entertain a nomination for chair of the Ag and Rural Affairs Committee. Does anybody have somebody that they would like to nominate? I would go ahead and nominate Randy Udall as chair for the duration of your amount of time that you've got. I think your term is up in a year.
Yeah, it's 2024, I believe.
24, yes.
I believe.
So I would like to throw that out to the committee here as a nomination.
I do accept the nomination, so.
Okay. Do we have any discussion?
Nobody's beating the door down for that position, huh?
I would,
A good leader.
I would certainly be happy to retain as co-chair during that time, and we could move forward from there. So, I guess I need a motion for that. Do I have somebody to make a motion to nominate Randy Udall as chair of the Ag and Affairs Committee?
I do? Okay. I'll make a motion to nominate Randy as chair to the Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second for any other discussion?
I'll second the motion.
We have a second. Any discussion? All those favors signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Randy, you've got the gavel.
All right. Terrific. Thank you. Well, you're going to finish the meeting, Roger.
Okay.
Do we need to appoint the co-chair then? Okay.
We do.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to appoint Roger Coe as the co-chair of the Ag and Rural Affairs Committee.
I'll second.
We have a second. Any discussion?
Chosen from the group.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Oh, I'm so used to raising my hand. Saying aye.
Motion carried. Okay. Any report from any other issues that we need to be? Yeah, no, it's-
Just briefly, I just briefly, y'all, I just wanted to let you know that the neighborhood plans are moving forward. And so hopefully we'll be able to get that on agenda for the contract for the neighborhood plans, the Greenfield neighborhood, and also for South Stoner Prairie. And we're going to bring one item related to that to you all in August too. So just wanted to bring that up.
A question is, has the mayor made a selection on a committee or anything to work with?
No, we have not
Okay,
finalized any committees yet.
okay. I would hope that she would make a selection of somebody from the district. So,
More to come.
okay, very good. All right, thank you.
I've got a question. On the corner of Lacey and MM, has anybody come in there and put an application in for development there? They've been excavating that for almost a year, that area.
Oh, Lacey and the Osborne property.
Yes.
Yeah, he just has a fill permit.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's a fill permit.
Okay, so there's no, yeah.
Yeah, there's no development permit there, but there's a permit to do fill, and he's been filling in there.
Okay, well, I've been working at it a long time.
This is where that extension of the road off of Lacey to the south is.
Yeah.
There's a road coming off of Lacey adjacent to 14. Is that where we're talking about?
Let's see.
No, to the north, where Lacey turns from east to west to, and then
Oh.
north and all the way.
Adjacent to, or
And then-
opposing Terravesa.
It's right at the intersection
Yes,
of
correct.
Terravesa, that intersection.
That northwest intersection, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, my golly.
I don't have any development proposals right at this point. But I think the city would welcome something sooner than later.
What's the status of the Hartung property?
Good question. We expect to bring forward the vacation or the abandonment of the old Blaney Road, and then there'll be a new Blaney Road, right? Because the new layout with the roadways will change.
Oh,
You know, I'm happy to bring some more details for you, yeah. And the project is moving forward. Plan Commission has approved a PDD GIP for one of the apartment complexes. So there's going to be apartments, and then they're bringing forward a final plat for the first stage of the development. So it'll be a mix of housing, a little bit of commercial, then also some high-tech industrial kinds of uses. So it'll be a mixed-use development.
what about Terra Vesta? Have they gone into another phase of building there? It looks like they have really opened up some more land for development.
They have, yes. Earlier this year, Plan Commission approved the third addition to Terra Vesta, which added several, I don't even know off the top of my head, but probably 30 to 40 new residential lots in there. Yeah, so that's what's under construction right now.
What is the total plan for how many units will there be when it's completed?
You know, I'm not sure. I think they'll probably pretty much do one more big phase, and that'll pretty much take them to Larson.
Wow.
It's amazing.
Well, let's hope we can get some good commercial come in at that interchange. Maybe
Grocery store?
a grocery store or a motel or something.
On that fill lot.
Yeah, we should certainly have enough rooftops now to support that.
Way too many rooftops. We need some stuff.
Yeah, we need stuff. Okay,
Some stuff.
That's all that I
Yeah.
okay.